Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the bipartisan Common Sense Mortgage Choice Act sponsored by my good friend, Mr. Huizenga of Michigan. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of this legislation, which will make mortgages more affordable for low and moderate income families. In the wake of the financial crisis, Congress directed the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, to create a definition for so-called qualified mortgages. Congress wanted to ensure that consumers were not sold predatory loans and that good faith investors were not buying mortgages designed to fail. Unfortunately, the Bureau's rulemaking drove originators from the industry and made loans more expensive in the process. This burden will fall mostly on low and middle income families, the very people the CFPB was created to help. The rule promulgated by the CFPB czar limits consumer options, causes consumers to pay more, and does nothing to make mortgages any safer. It is this sort of illogical rulemaking that makes Michiganders more and more frustrated by what they see in Washington. We need to ensure that our government prosecutes fraud, predatory lending, and unethical practices, but it should not be in the business of undermining an industry that plays such a critical role in the dream of home ownership. You know, when mortgages become more expensive, it is America's low and middle income families that suffer the most. Home ownership is the cornerstone of the American dream. It builds communities, provides families with stability, and hopefully creates equity for retirement. The government should be helping this dream, not creating silly, illogical obstacles. Over the past several years, I have worked with my colleagues to refocus the Bureau on its core mission of protecting consumers. I am glad that Acting Director Mulvaney has begun to do so, and I am encouraged that Congress is doing its part to rein in this rogue bureaucracy. This bill does nothing to threaten the underlying safety of the QM rule and does not erode vital consumer protections. It simply helps ensure that consumers have choices to reduce their mortgage costs along the way. Now, the ranking member opposes this bill as she believes it will usher in a new era of fraudulent, subprime, dangerous loans riddled with kickbacks and inflated title fees. I'm not sure how money held in escrow would ever be a kickback, and her description of the title industry is completely incorrect. It is a highly regulated industry in most states, and the states that she mentioned, Illinois, is extremely competitive and extremely regulated. I'm not sure what bill the ranking member believes we are debating today, but the Mortgage Choice Act will not result in any of the problems she describes. All great scare tactics, great theater, a great political soundbite, but unfortunately all fiction, all inaccurate. Her flip-flop on this bill is at least, at the minimum, very puzzling, but if everything she says is correct, I certainly feel bad for all the Democrats.
Gentleman is recognized for 30 seconds.
I feel bad if everything she says is true for all the Democrats who unanimously passed this bill in the 113th Congress. Mr. Chairman, the American people deserve better than a partisan discussion about something that's nothing more than a technical correction of an unintended consequence. Again, I thank my friend Mr. Huizenga for his leadership, and I encourage all of my colleagues to join in supporting this bipartisan solution, and I yield.